What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the 9x9. It is episode 4, November 3rd, 2021. And my name is Everett Storm, joined today by one, the only Mr. Rob St. Clair. And Rob, when we were doing our show notes yesterday, we were kind of looking, like, we don't really have that much to talk about this week. Maybe let's find some segments. But today, we're just going to jump right into it because today it came out. Massive news coming out of Ottawa. The next head coach of the Canadian men's national team has been named, and it is none other than the leader of the best team in Canada, the Trinity Western Spartans, Mr. Ben Josephson. And now, Rob, I think we need to just cut back to a bit of a history lesson, back to last week's show, with something that I had to say back last week's show. Let's roll the tape.
Let's roll the tape.
Like that's what they have the ability to do. It's just there's so much depth in their program, just breeds quality. Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't be surprised since we've seen the retirement of Glenn Hoag from the men's national team. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Coach Ben Josephson take over his mantle, because there's no question to me who the best coach in Canada is. There's no doubt about it. It's Ben Josephson. No questions asked.
Yes. Everett, right on time with the takes. That was 1 week ago today when that was said on this very show. And now here we are earlier today. It was announced that very thing, just as you predicted. A void left by Glenn Hoag, and I think pretty clearly the best and most logical candidate to fill that job, and it's Ben Josephson. He will start, I think, April 1st of 2022, will officially become the next coach of the Canadian men's national team.
Yeah, absolutely. As of April of 2022, he will be heading from Langley to Ottawa to join the men's national team. He will be giving up his role as head coach of the Trinity Western men's team. He's been at Trinity Western now for 23 years, altogether, from being an athlete to an assistant coach, taking over the mantle team in 2007. He's led that team to 5 national championships. And you know what? It could have probably been 6. With the canceled season that we had back in 2020. That's also counting last year's not happening season in U Sports. So it could have been more. Has hands down been the most dominant program in men's volleyball in Canada over the past year. Already, he's going to be jumping onto a team that is filled with his past former athletes. We've got Ryan Sclater, Lucas Van Berkel, Jansen Van Dorn, Stephen Marshall, Eric Lepke, all former Trinity Western Spartans, and realistically, it is just the best move for volleyball. It's you know what, as much as my take is from last week is great, it's the obvious move for volleyball Canada to take, right? We saw how difficult it was with Stefan Antiga for a foreigner to come in and lead this team. If you don't understand North American volleyball, and if you don't understand how it works between U Sports and how the programs work, it's difficult to come in from the outside and lead this team. And so there's no one else that deserves this more than Ben Josephson.
I agree. I think it's perfect. And I wanted to ask something from more Canadian fans' perspectives. For those of you who were not aware of this, earlier this summer, there were a handful of kind of minor caliber NORCECA tournaments. There was like one NORCECA and one like Pan Am something or other that like both USA and Canada sent nowhere close to their top elite national teams to. And one of those in particular, Canada just straight up told Ben Josephson to take the Trinity Western men's program, re-outfit them in Team Canada jerseys, and send them straight to that tournament as Trinity Western, but they were all competing as Team Canada. And they performed pretty well at that tournament. How much of that, Everett, do you think was perhaps testing or a trial run of Ben Josephson in that kind of role? Was this writing on the wall all the way back then?
I mean, the reality is that this has been happening with Trinity Western for a number of years now. Back in the day, there was Pan Am U23 events that they just used to send Trinity Western to, both the men and the women. I mean, hell, we can even go all the way back to 2011 when he led the Trinity Western Spartans to the Club World Championship. And they even came, they lost to Zenit Kazan and came home with a win, beating a team from Iran. I remember they got 27 blocks in that match, right? So sending Trinity Western teams to represent Canada is something that's kind of always happened. I do believe that there's something in. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a booster or someone who's helped pay for those trips from that their end, and just being like, hey, we're just going to send anyone, or we're just going to send Trinity Western because you know what, there's some a working relationship. But I mean, where I really think it started was when he was with the women's national team, leading up through their qualification process, leading up for the 2020 Olympics. I got to spend a little time around him, and when he was working with Coach Tom Black, and that was really when they were starting to trial him out to see if he was going to be a part of that national team program. He actually applied to be the women's national team head coach first. But I think at that point, that's really when people like Julian Boucher and more importantly, probably Carrie McDonald were starting to look at it and be like, hey, you know what? We need to keep this head coaching position right now inside of Canada. That's the only people who are going to know our system, know how it works. And Ben Josephson is the right guy for that job. Even if you go down to his time with Team BC, he coached Team BC back in 2013. He's been with the Youth Maples and other programs like the B team for many, many years. The only thing that the only program he hasn't worked with at all over his past few years is with the senior men's A national team.
Right.
And you know what? It's been littered with his athletes. I mentioned I mentioned them all before, and there's other guys like Rudy Verhoef who have had made huge impacts. Even going to the beach side where we had Kame Schalk represent Canada at the Olympics in 2016. He's a former Spartan, right? So it just goes on to how much excellence this program has bred and how good and dominant this program has bred. And you know what? As I said it before, there's no one I trust more about the future of the Maple Volleys other than Ben Josephson. No one deserves this more. And I think that there's no one who's, other than Glenn Hoag, there's no one who's ubiquitously like revered and respected
and like associated with Canadian volleyball. Yeah, I totally agree. I am nowhere near as knowledgeable or as connected about the Canadian volleyball universe. That's why we have you on the show, Everett. It's wonderful to hear all these inside takes, but it totally makes sense. And in a period where the Canadian national team, we talked about them losing Gord Perrin to retirement, they will have to figure out how to engineer the future of that program. And I couldn't think of a better person to do that than Ben Josephson, with such familiarity around his own athletes in the program. That's an easy transition already. And just a guy to building a collegiate program like that, or like sustaining it and recruiting new players and, maintaining the excellence of a program like TWU is actually not that dissimilar from operating a national team program. The recruiting is a little bit different, but you really can engineer your own pipeline and your own development system however you want, and which is something that we've seen with the United States national team, as coaches have had the shared national team and university coaching role throughout their time. Like Sparrow does it now, Alan Knipe did it before. Like we see that as the standard North American model now for national teams, and I love it for Canada. I think Josephson's going to do great things. This was nice news to see today, and it was even better that it came up on our show last week.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be unreal. I think that we're really going to see a full integration. I think one of the things that Glenn Hoag did so well is integrate, from the junior team all the way up through the senior men's national team. Once you're in that pipeline, you're working within the Canadian national team systems. You're working with, like how we like to play that game. And I think that's going to permeate now even more through the Canadian volleyball system. He's been very, very hands-on with the youth national team, working with guys like Mike Hawk, who's the head coach at UBC, working with guys, like I said, the aforementioned Carrie McDonald, who is the science and development director for Volleyball Canada. I think that this is just really just the best move. And as I said, no one more deserving. It's going to I'm really interested to see him put on his own take on the men's national team. And another thing, I'm very interested to see what happens at Trinity Western in his absence. After this year, he will be obviously stepping aside, and in his place will be 2012 CIS Player of the Year Ben Ball, who led the Trinity Western Spartans to back-to-back national championships, and another guy who led the Spartans back-to-back national championships. That would be Adam Schreimer, former national team setter as well. So Ben Ball has been, Ben Josephson's right-hand man for almost a decade now. So it's going to be very, very interesting. And it was a part of that team that, went to the Club World Championships and won a game there. So it's going to be very interesting to see the transition of this powerhouse team from Ben Josephson, the guy who created it all, who built that team. He was the Trinity Western Spartans' first All-Canadian back in 2002 as a player. And
I love it when that sort of thing happens.
Right. He's been that guy. He's upheld their legacy so long, and now he's passing it off to, two of the best guys who have ever worn the navy and white.
And he's got a whole
and Schreimer.
And he's got a whole season to not only ride off into the sunset, but to help engineer Trinity Western's transition. Again, he won't be taking over for Team Canada full time until April of next year. So pretty much the whole U Sports season when Josephson will still be at the helm of TWU. And like we've talked about on the show the last couple of weeks, it would be truly shocking if they don't send him off with a national championship. I think they're so much better than everyone else. I would predict it right now, and I would put my bet the house on it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it'll be, I guess, nationals in March will be a bit of an emotional time, because for me, it's been so long going to nationals, and every year Benjo and I have even joked it's my yearly pilgrimage to go interview him. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting time as his last U Sport national championship. But as I said, no one more deserving than Ben Josephson, and I think that there's everyone involved in Canadian volleyball, from the players to the administrators to other coaches across the country. Everyone is very happy for Benjo and his newly appointed role.
Love it. And Everett will try to get Mr. Josephson himself on the podcast very shortly to dig into more about this move. But so I think that's enough time spent on that. Congratulations to Benjo. I think it's a great move for Canada. Let's move on to what else is going on elsewhere in the world. So last week we talked about Modena. Or the last couple of weeks we've really been talking about Modena a lot. They obviously had a huge offseason. They had a very bad start to the season. They came in and whooped Trentino 3-0. They then turned around and handed Perugia their first loss of the season, 3-2, in just the craziest barn burner of a 5-setter. That was last Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember which. You're right. It was last Wednesday.
It was the Wednesday game, yeah.
Yeah, it was the Wednesday game. My bad. So then they beat Perugia. They had Perugia their first loss of the year. Crazy match. And then they beat a pretty bad Verona team who's trying to escape relegation. So, like you brought up a couple weeks ago, Everett, it was Pedrini, who the chairman, like the owner of Modena, basically, who came out and put the pressure straight on Coach Andrea Gianni and was like, "All right, do or die couple matches here, Mr. Gianni. There's a chance that your job is on the line. It's up to you to turn this thing around." And boy, have they. They also played today. They easily won a CEV Cup game with their bench out. But Modena with a huge turnaround in their season. They beat Perugia. That match was unbelievable. Go watch it if you haven't. And they're right back in the contender conversation in the SuperLega, but more ridiculously, and I didn't know this until it kind of came out after this match. Dude, Irvin Ingapet, all time in his career, starting with his first Modena days back 3, 4, 5 years ago, then moving to Zenit Kazan, played him a couple times, now back to Modena. Irvin Ingapet has never lost to Perugia in his life.
16-0. Do you have the clip?
I do. Yeah, let me roll the clip.
Irvin 15, Perugia 0, bro. 5 years, bro. Never lose. Never lose. Never.
Now that's an old clip, as I think that's from 2019. He was playing with Zenit Kazan, but still 16-0. That is such an utter domination of one team. And you know what? Like there's the I can post it on Instagram, the one just like the breakdown of all the matches. There's been a bunch of huge matches there, a bunch of 3-2 matches throughout, but still Irvin Ingapeth, finds a way to produce against Perugia. It's just incredible. 16-0.
Like it doesn't make any sense. Like that's it. It's not like it's the luck or it's the better team winning every time, or like there's literally no explanation for that stat. It's absolutely insane. Just Irvin happens to be Perugia's kryptonite. There have been so many iterations of those teams over the years. Like this is going back to like before the Luciano DeCecco era in Perugia, when Zaitsev was there, when Aaron Russell was there, obviously when Atanasievich was there.
Yeah,
like
those were some fun teams.
They were like before Wilfredo Leon got there, and then since Wilfredo Leon has been there, and Irvin playing in 2 different countries. For some reason, every time he plays Perugia, he wins. It's nuts. Like I just can't believe that. And going back to the Perugia match from last Wednesday, I think Modena was up like 14-11 or something like that. It was looking like they were going to win the match until you could start to hear in the distance the slowly growing volume of the Darth Vader music as Wilfredo Leon stepped back to the service line. Dun, 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 dun. Like, I would be terrified if that man went back to the service line. Sure enough, he brings Perugia right back. They go into extra points, but then Modena squeaks it out 17-15. So that match was nuts, and the Irvin streak remains unbeaten. Can we play that clip one more time? I want to play the clip.
Yeah, I love that clip.
Irvin 15, Perugia 0, bro. 5 years, bro. Never lose. Never lose. Never.
He never loses.
Oh, man, just love it. I mean, and he had a monster game that one. 22 points, 15 kills, 3 blocks, and an ace, hitting 42%. And I mean, it was in all ways like 15 blocks in that one overall for Perugia. So it was a barn burner of a match, back and forth. You know, Modena looked like they were dominating after 2 sets, and then Perugia just comes back all the way on the back of
look at those
26
look
points.
At those score lines, because I remember I was commentating during this. I had Monza Padova, which was also a crazy good 5-setter last Wednesday, and you guys were all talking to Discord like, what is going on to Perugia right now? Because Modena was up in that second set and just absolutely clowning on them. And I was looking at the scores because when I commented, I like to update people on the scores going on elsewhere around the league. And I'm like, wait a minute, that score can't be right. It was like 21-8 or something stupid at one point. I'm like, guys, tell me this is a typo. This isn't the correct score. And you're like,
25-12 in the second set.
Like, oh yeah, like it was the correct score. And then of course Perugia brings it all the way back and almost wins the match. Yeah, that was insane. A great match, and the Irvin streak remains alive. Just ridiculous.
But not only that, but Modena is fully back now.
Totally,
right.
100%.
There was they beat Trentino, and that was like, okay, they're looking good. They're back on the right track. But now after beating Perugia, taking down Verona. Also, side note, Verona got their shipment of jerseys, and then they're looking fresh all of a sudden.
Dude, the new Verona kits are
gold and blue they got going on. Way better.
And I am the firmest believer of all time in uniform karma. The better you look, the better you play. I wrote a whole article on the Volleyball Source website this summer about ranking the VNL jerseys top to bottom, and the uniform karma is a real thing, boys and girls. Verona's new kits are sick, and I think they're playing better. So before we move on to talk about the Italian Women's League, we might as well look at this now. So this is the current standings in the SuperLega men's up to right now, and you got to remember that the first criterion for ranking is points. It's not matches won. It's not one loss record. It is points. So if you have played more matches, you have an advantage because you've had more chances to win points. Both Lube and Trentino's schedules have been moved up a little bit because they're both playing Champions League and World Club Championships. So they've played more matches so far, but Modena hasn't even been close to that left column of your screen yet so far this year. I think they've played the least number of matches in the league. I think they've only played 7 up to this point.
They played 8,
7, maybe 8, and here they are. They're creeping in onto that top 6, approaching the top 5, top 4, kind of where we thought they would be. So the standings of the Superliga right now, and then on the other side, Ravenna is, clearly going to get one of those relegation spots. And right now, a fight between Toronto, Vibo Valencia, and Verona to get out of that second relegation spot.
Yeah, for Modena, when we were talking about them a couple of weeks ago, they were 2-3 at that point, right? Very precarious. Now they've turned around 3 wins in a row. They're 5-3, and hell, they're laughing. So big turnaround there. And of course, Perugia, that was their first loss of the season. So I think now Zaxa is the only undefeated team that we have amongst all of the major leagues on the men's side.
Berlin as well, if you want to count Germany, but we all saw that one coming.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, this is exactly like what we talked about last week about the Superliga just being so sick. This is it right here. This is the cream rising to the top. This is Modena starting to reach the levels that we all thought they could. Mons is obviously still right there. Piacenza is obviously still right there. But then you have these top four just classic Superliga contenders. They're almost definitely going to be the top 4 teams in the league in the next couple of weeks and throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think both Monza and Piacenza have taken steps backwards, especially recently, both suffering some losses. And with the way that Modena is coming back up, I think that we truly have that top 4. We, at the beginning of the season, we didn't think Trentino was going to be anywhere near it. Hell, I thought they were going to fall somewhere underneath of Monza and Piacenza, and they're back right at it right now. So I think this is just setting us up for what is going to be a fantastic second. I guess we're almost reaching to the first half.
Just about at the halfway point.
Just about the halfway point of the SuperLega now. I think this is just setting up what is going to be a fantastic second half and playoffs of the SuperLega this year.
Totally. All right, let's move on to the women's Italian league. The biggest story this week, other than Conegliano not being touched because they didn't play anyone good, Novara had a huge week. They're trying to keep pace with Conegliano in the standings. They had a Champions League match against THY Istanbul, and they beat Busto Arsizio in pretty miraculous comeback fashion on the road in 5. And if you're American and you follow the women's national team, this is very interesting because those 2 matches featured the 3 top American women's setters. You had Micah Hancock of Novara beating Lauren Carlini head-to-head in Champions League, and then beating Jordan Poulter head-to-head in the Italian league domestically. These are great matches and totally spotlighted Micah Hancock from the service line. Last season, she was massive. She was amazing. Last year, she broke the all-time record for aces in a season and did it on almost a 1-to-1 ace-to-error ratio, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. But in that Busto Arsizio match, Novara was getting smoked in the 4th, and it was 2 Micah Hancock service runs that brought it back. And in the 5th, they were down 11-6 in the 5th. 11-6. And they came back and won 15-13. That's, what does that run, 9-2? Get out of here with that.
Micah Hancock is a weapon from the baseline. And I mean, like, we've always kind of known this. This is back in the day, even back in the day when she was at Penn State.
Dude, I saw her serve in real life. I was on floor level at the gym at Purdue every time Penn State came into the gym at Purdue, and I saw her hook left-handed jump serves from position 5 to position 5 and had that vicious like tail all the way across the court, and she hit it really hard with pace. Like, nobody in the Big Ten could figure out how to pass that ball, and that has transferred all the way up to the top levels.
Yeah, I remember doing a podcast with former Penn State assistant coach Steve Aird, and he was assistant coach at the time. And he was, and I was talking about Michael Hancock, and he goes, you know what? She's maybe not the best setter quite yet. Her location's a little bit off and her decisions making a little off, but the intangibles that she brings to the court, aka her serving, just kind of offsets all of that. And I mean, how valuable is that to have as a setter, right? The fact that you have the ability to lead the offense, but also put your team into a good defensive position with your serving, right?
Absolutely.
And just the ability, her ability to step in and go after it. I mean, on one side of it, if you're Busto, you need to figure something out, right? More than 50% of the serves are going to Alexa Gray, right? She's being targeted. She's got the most attempts for you guys as well. She's touching the ball over 50% of the time for your team. Your libero, your P2, whoever needs to pinch it out and take some room away from Alexa Gray.
Figure it out.
In those situations. Drop to a 4-person serve receive, right? You're not telling me that Mingardi can't jump back in there. How do you let someone go off on you consistently like that throughout the game?
It's funny because I watched it and they did that. They brought Mingardi back and they called some timeouts, and still Hancock with a couple of those balls are just too good. She'll just roast Alexa Gray in position 5, like passing the front row outside hitter. And then every so often she'll pull one down the line, like straight down the sideline in position 1. And it's the cleanest, like most untouchable ace of all time. Yeah, she's amazing. And she also had 8 attacking attempts in that match in 5 sets. So she's getting up and trying to hammer the ball because she's left-handed, of course, a weapon, attacking, taking the offense into her own hands too. So very interesting to see those head-to-head American setter battles. Micah Hancock, the big winner this week for sure.
Yeah, 100% coming out with 2 big wins. And I mean, we didn't even really talk about their win over Istanbul. And
well, here we go.
That grudge match there between her and Carlini.
Right. I wanted to bring that up after. So this is the graphic from last week. So I didn't update it yet. But the matches that we were talking about last week for Women's Champions League, Vakif Bank 3-1 Monza. Fenerbahce Dinamo Kazan went 5. That match was awesome. And then Novara 3-0 at THY Istanbul, like we just said. So a lot of good stuff there, and we'll get to the men's in just a second. Everett, any takes on these matches? Fenerbahce won, by the way. Fenerbahce beat Dinamo Kazan in 5.
No, nothing out of the ordinary. I was expecting a little bit more out of Thai Istanbul and Kieran Van Rijk in that other match, but I mean, Novara is just clipping on another level right now. Even though, to be honest, they didn't even look that good. Like, Karakurt had a terrible match on Sunday.
Yeah, Karakurt hit negative against Busto, and they still figured it out.
Haley
that was
Washington
crazy to me.
Was like 4 points.
She went to the bench.
Yeah. Like
they can beat good teams without 2 of their perhaps most important players. Like, watch out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think they're just rolling right now. But yeah, on the Champions League side of things, no, nothing too big. I mean, we talked about a little bit about last week about Rezhov just barely edging out Dresdner. Another good one between Fenerbahce and Dinamo Kazan. But yeah, kind of a as you'd expect first week of Champions League on the women's side.
Agreed. Nothing crazy on that side. So the men's, we have the pleasure of kicking off the men's Champions League this week. Earlier today, Fenerbahce beat Khan pretty easily. Salvador Hurtado was good. Yassine Luati was really good playing against Khan. Khan was not good at all. So not a huge surprise there
this year, even in the LNV, like 2-8 in the LNV after winning it last year.
I was really surprised. Like, I didn't realize just how bad they had been in France. But yeah, that's pretty rough. And so that match is on YouTube today for free. Tomorrow, Dinamo Moscow versus Warszawa is the featured match live on the CV YouTube channel for free. That's 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. That match is going to be good. You got your boy Jay Blankenau in Warszawa, but he hasn't played all that much. It's been Angel Trinidad. They've got 2 great middles, Andre Verona, Peter Novakovsky. They've got Igor Grabelny, Bartosz Kwolek on the left sides. They picked up Dusan Pekovic at the opposite from Skra in the offseason, who I don't love. I think that might be a weak point for them. But then Dinamo Moscow dude, Pavel Penkov, like you already know, Svetlana Sokolov's still there, Lori Kermanin's still there, and a bunch of just gigantic Russian dudes. I'm actually really excited for that match.
I'm interested to see Moscow because I feel like they've been struggling a little bit. They've been kind of flying under the radar, especially how they started last year, and they, were so dominant all throughout.
Totally. They really took the club world by storm last year, and it's been quieter than that this time around. So that it's going to be like the classic Russian style of gigantic dudes, like bombing serves, hitting the ball as hard as they can. Like, Pavel Penkov is probably the best serving setter in the world right now. And just gigantic blockers. Sokolov's enormous, like Bogdan and who's the other outside? Podlesnik, I think. It's just so classic, gigantic Russian firepower, and see if Warszawa can play enough small ball to stick around. They've got the good matchups in the middle. They can hang on the outside, but they've got to be able to score out a system to have a chance. So we'll see how that goes. I'm excited for that one.
There was one other match today, and that was Giuseppe Wejel taking on Hebar Pizardik out of Bulgaria, and they just absolutely stomped on the Bulgarians, 25-11, 25-16, 25-14 for JW in that one.
Yeah, I thought that would be a little more competitive, especially, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. Stefan Boyer is out right now for JW. He's got a minor injury, will be out a couple weeks. So without their starting opposite, they still stomped on a team full of like pretty experienced Bulgarian dudes. So that Brad was Gunter. And Brad Gunter. So that was a statement. Also tomorrow you got Lube Civitanova against Lokomotiv Novosibirsk. That's going to be insane. That is on Eurovolley TV. So don't go to YouTube expecting to find that one. I think that's at like 2 p.m. Eastern. So really excited about that match for sure. Gord Perrin in action. And then Thursday, oh boy, Thursday on YouTube, you get Perugia versus Trentino.
And they've already had a couple of spicy matches this year.
They have.
With Trentino, the Supercopa, and so they're 1-1 right now. Man, it's like we've got last year. It was really just Perugia versus Lube all year long. Trentino was there a little bit more so on the Champions League side of things. This year, all 4 of the teams are just going to be throwing haymakers all year round, and I love it. Just absolutely love it.
Me too. Yeah. So Trentino stomped on Perugia 3-0 in the Super Cup semis. Perugia then just mopped the floor with Trentino in the regular season. Like, they've really, like, it's a heavyweight fight every time they go up against one another, and it's been pretty one-sided both of the times that we've seen. Maybe Thursday will be the tighter matchup that we expect. Marko Pedrašinin is back for Trentino. I believe Matej Kaziski is back as well, so I think both of them will be at full strength on Thursday. That's live on YouTube. I don't know what time it is, but check out the CV YouTube channel for that.
That one's going to be at 2:30 Eastern.
2:30 Eastern.
Yeah,
thank you.
So.
Also, if you tuned into the European Volleyball show last week, myself and our very good friend Dan Manili had kind of the rebirth and reformatting of the European Volleyball show live. We went live half an hour before the featured match of the week, and we will continue to do that every Wednesday on the CV YouTube channel. So tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, I'll go live with a very special guest, and you tune in to find out who that is.
We can't tell them?
Yeah, okay, we can tell him. Salvador Hidalgo Oliva is a Cuban guy. I think he's about 35. He plays for Fenerbahce. He played today and was really good. He played for JW back in the day. He's a super cool dude, ton of personality. He will be joining me tomorrow morning to help preview Dinamo Moscow versus Warsaw and talk about his Champions League and their match that was today. So check that one out. I'm really excited to chat with Salvador. He's a really cool dude.
Yeah, that one should be a good conversation. I'll definitely be tuning in for that.
Beauty.
I love watching Hidalgo play. Back a few years ago, him and Canadian legend Jason DeRocco lit things up for JW together.
That's right. I was looking through his volley box today and just seeing all the people he's played with, and there's like hundreds and hundreds of them. And
he's been around forever.
Couple Canadians, Jason DeRocco, that one JW year. Shout outs.
We should get Ron. You should talk to Ronnie beforehand and get some, inside scoops on.
Oh, I should. I don't know. Is Ronnie in the chat right now? Ronnie, if you're in the chat, let me know, dude. If there's anything cool you want me to ask Salvador tomorrow. Also, anyone watching the chat, I see Mikey in the chat. Hit us up in the YouTube chat. We are watching, and anybody listening on audio, tune in on Tuesday nights at 7:30 Eastern because we go live on YouTube and we look in the chat and can talk to you guys. We are live on every standard audio streaming platform in audio podcast form with the 9x9. So check that out if you missed the show.
Hopefully we will be by the time you're listening or watching this. We're still waiting on a few approvals. iTunes looking at you. Let us in, bro.
That one always takes forever, but if you belong to the Spotify master race as I do, you can listen to the show right away.
The Spotify master race.
You heard me. All right, moving on.
Yes, this is the stuff we want to see right here. Players of the week. First, you thought it was going to be him last week, but you know what? As his Sekai Blazers move into first spot of the V League, you have to give Shawan Vernon-Evans the Canadian of the week. 45 points. They take down Nagoya and Bartosz Kurek. Actually, we saw a little bit of love from the two former teammates at Warsaw a few years ago.
Right.
If you remember that, Bartosz Kurek got injured and came in off the bench in the playoffs to drop multiple 24-point performances for Warsaw. Best ever result. Just another indication that Heinen is a stooge. But lots of love between those two legends. But man, Shawan Vernon-Evans just continuing to have a massive bounce back year, averaging well over 20 points a match. He had 23 in one and 22 in another. As his Sakai Blazers move into a top position in the V League, sole position, and just absolutely having a massive year for it. So you got to give the shout out to him. He's in fourth in scoring overall, fourth in swing percentage and efficiency as well. So just absolutely killing it this year is Shawan Vernon-Evans in Japan. I wish we could watch Japanese games.
I have no idea how to watch those games. No clue.
But just absolutely massive numbers being put up by the Scarborough, Ontario native.
Shout outs to Shawan. He is our Canadian of the week. Our American of the week is Mr. TJ DeFalco. And we have not talked about Olsztyn nearly enough on this show just yet. But look at these numbers on this season. Olsztyn lost their first two matches this season in the PlusLiga and then is currently in the middle of ripping off 7 wins in a row. TJ on the season is insane. 20 aces and 26 errors is off the charts. Fourth in the league in scoring, over 40% efficiency. Has won 4 match MVPs. He looks great. Taylor Averill looks great. Carol Butrin on the right side for Olsztyn. That team is really good. I think they're about 4th in the standings right now. And look that up.
Yep.
4th, dude. Like, Olsztyn's legit. They had a pretty big offseason, and we were excited to see what they're going to do. And here they are. Big match coming up this weekend as well, which we'll talk about later.
Hot take. If Vibo had kept DeFalco instead of going out to get Nishida, they'd be doing much better right now.
Dude, that is a very good take. You think about that Vibo team last year, Chinese leaving, DeFalco leaving, Rossard leaving. They bring in basically 3 Brazilians and then Yuji Nishida, and they're significantly worse. I don't know what it happens to be about those guys, but DeFalco really increasing his stock. If you put those 2 samples next to one another, a good year for a team with low expectations in Italy, and now a very good start to the year for a middle of the pack team overperforming expectations in Poland, you can see a pretty clear common factor there. And I love what I'm seeing from TJ DeFalco, especially considering the future trajectory of the outside hitter position on Team USA. Love what I'm seeing out of TJ DeFalco. He is our American of the Week.
I won't lie. TJ DeFalco's been looking really, really good.
Awesome.
Like just really stepping up. And that whole Ulster team is so much fun to watch too, with him and Taylor Averill. You know what? You won't. But yeah, I think that Ulster team, I don't know if they have any chance that they're going to push Zaxa. May not even fall short against teams like Forsava or just Ebi Weigel, but still some very, very good ball being played by Ulster right now in the Polish league.
As it happens, we normally save this for the end of the show, but we want to talk about upcoming matches this week right now because there's really not much other than the Champions League games that we already talked about. But Ulster gets a crack at JW this Saturday. That's 8:45 a.m. Eastern this Saturday, Ulster versus JW. We talked about no Stefan Boyer for Yashevsky. That is a proven opportunity for Ulster to really beat one of the big boys, and they could. So let's see, Yashevsky 23 points in second place, Ulster 20 points in fourth place. If they win that head-to-head match, they pretty much jump up immediately into second place in the league. So a big one there in the Plusliga. And then the only other thing that I saw notable on the schedule other than Champions League, Galatasaray versus THY women, Saturday 9 a.m. Eastern. That 2 of the top 5 teams in Turkey going at it that day.
And two of the best young opposites too, with Alexia Karatasu on Galatasaray, and of course Kira Van Rijk on THY Istanbul. So I think you're gonna have 2 heavyweights just teeing off on that one.
Yep, yeah, that'll be a fun one. All right, so very what's the show? I can't think of it. PTI, part of the interruption. If you've seen PTI on ESPN over the years with Tony Kornheiser, Michael Wilbon, they at the end of the show, they kind of go back and forth really quick with a couple headlines and a couple quick takes. So we are going to do that very thing really quick back and forth, starting off with some very sad news. Unfortunately, Arthur Schwartz has torn his ACL. Everett, what are your thoughts on this?
It's a big blow for Arthur Schwartz. For those of us who are watching it was the Padova match, the Cisterna against the Monza match, Piacenza match. It was the one last Tuesday. He was chasing a ball, and as soon as he hit the ground, I asked Rob, should we play the clip, because you can see him plant and his leg does the herky jerky, and we decided to save you guys and not play the clip, but it was gnarly. And he's going to be out. He's going to be out for a while, definitely for the rest of the season. We'll see if he gets some reps back in with the national team this season. But a big blow to Arthur Schwartz in general. And you know what? It might be the end of him playing opposite. You know what? I think that if he's going to take some time to rehab. I think once he's done, just stick to what in the middle, and just dominate there. Yeah, that might be the end of him playing opposite.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that maybe being the right move anyway, so maybe this is the catalyst for that. But yeah, best wishes to Arthur Schwartz. I assume that he'll head back to Canada in the near future, get surgery, and go from there.
Yeah, I'd assume so too, but I do know that he is partial to playing for Cisterna. His girlfriend lives in that area too, so who knows? Maybe he'll do his rehab and stuff like that.
Yeah, possible.
Let's be honest. I'd much rather rehab in Rome than in Toronto. So
in the winter,
yeah, absolutely. So, and we've been getting dumped on recently here. So, yeah, maybe not the best time to come back, Arthur, but maybe let's see if we can hook up with a podcast or something.
That would be cool. All right, moving on. What's next?
Yeah, moving on. The next big piece of news is we have Alan Souza and Kuzbas Komarovo mutually agreeing to end his contract in the Russian Super League. He will be leaving just due to injuries and not being able to play that he's going to be was supposed to be. He's leaving, but that leaves a huge hole for Kuzbas, and I mean, a team that a couple years ago was at the top of the Russian league with Ivan Zaitsev is now, looking like they're going to be floundering a little bit.
Yeah, they're in trouble. It's a big loss. They brought in Alan Souza to be a point scorer. And I was excited to see how he would adapt to the Russian style of play. Like Russian volleyball versus Brazilian volleyball are, I would say, pretty diametrically opposed in style in the international game. And I was excited to see if Alan Souza could go there and like legitimately score on high volume against the big boys. Unfortunately, it has not worked out that way. Yeah, no bad blood there in that cutting of the contract. Just Alan's too injured this year. He can't fulfill his contract, so I believe he will head back to Brazil, and Kuzbas will try and hit the free agent market, I guess.
Yeah, tough one for Alan Souza and for Kuzbas, but hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
It does happen. One thing that's great about volleyball is it's really not that injury prone of a sport, but they do happen and they do affect teams for sure.
Yeah,
all right,
NFL.
Right, a little different than the NFL. Moving on, a piece of news that we talked about a couple of weeks ago has now been officially announced by club and player Ron Takahashi to Padova is official. He's on the move. He's done with his university term in Japan. He is going to Italy. We'll see how quickly he can suit up. Everett, I know you're concerned about this. Let's talk about it again.
It's
really
not
quick.
Even concern. It's just like, why? And I mean, I know why. You wanna up your exposure with FIVB.
I don't think it's
YouTube
just
videos.
a marketing play, though. I don't think it's just a marketing play.
But like at this point, you still have two solid young outsides with Botolo and Lepke. I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like Padova's have been having a great season so far on the back of Linus Weber and Mattia Botolo. And I mean, you see Lepke and Botolo have different games when they beat when they got their win last week. I forget who
Monza. I commentated that game.
Yeah, when they beat Monza, Botolo was absolutely lights out, and Lepke was a little bit in the back. But then this week when they lost to Perugia, Lepke was up there leading the match with 16 points, and so was Linus Weber. So I just don't see you already have a good thing going. You're playing a lot better than you were last season. Why are you going out to get someone? For me, the only reason that they have to be is for the marketing aspect of bringing a Japanese player.
So we've clearly seen the power of Japanese player marketing with Ishikawa and Nishida playing in Italy, and we are nauseated by how much coverage they get. This is more than just a marketing play. Takahashi is not nearly as flashy or perhaps sexy of a player as those other two guys. I've commentated two Padova matches now, and I love Eric Lepke. I love his game. He's at it. It's weird because they brought in this Bulgarian kid, Georgi Petrov, for him a couple times. Petrov even started the last game. They brought Lepke in off the bench. I'm confused by that because Petrov really doesn't add anything. Padova's issue is that they're the worst passing team in the league. I think they're even worse than Ravena statistically. Takahashi's strength of his game is passing the ball. That is something that he can come in and contribute right away. Well, I mean, the Italian Super League serving is a different beast than really anywhere else in the world, but that is the thing that Padova really needs the most as an injection into their lineup. So I see it from that standpoint. But he gives up so much in attacking, especially against a guy like Eric Lepke. I wouldn't worry about Lepke's playing time very much, but it'll be a useful substitution to bring in when they need him. I also wanted to shout out Mattia Botolo, who you talked about, because he is a stud. He has been really good the last couple Padova matches. He just is kind of a fireball of a player. He just bangs the ball as hard as he can all the time. He's sick out of the pipe. He's sick from the service line. So they've got a good thing going there. And a nice little Italian young outside hitter prospect. So, yeah, Takahashi to Padova. It's happening. We'll see how it goes.
For me, Botolo was the only reason to watch Padova last year. You know what? Yeah. Even though Tonček Stern was out there putting up massive numbers, was in the top 5 of scoring in the league, Mattia Botolo was the fire. He was the energy. He was everything that was good about Padova, and that wasn't very much last year, right? So I you know what? The fact that he's stepping up this year, it's kind of exactly on track. And you know what? I think for me, just in general, with this young Italian generation that's coming up until this summer, I was kind of, questioning, who's going to step up? You're going to lose Monterena. You're probably going to lose Zaitsev soon. Lanza, his hair is great, but his playing isn't all that fantastic these days, right? So, who's going to be able to step in? But we've seen these guys, whether it's Lavia or Botolo, of course, Micheletto, they've got some guys, and I think Italy's going to be scary for the next few years. And the best thing is they didn't even need to steal a Cuban to be able to do it.
Yeah, I'm kind of sick of Italy being good. I don't want to hear it from Monty or Tommy in the Discord about the new golden generation of Italian volleyball. Yeah, forget that. But yeah, Bottola's look good. Padova's kind of fun to watch. Shout out to Linus Weber as well, who's been really good for him.
Yeah.
So we already talked.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I think one other person that you really need to shout out for Padova being good is Jan Zimmerman at the setter position. He's just been running around, chucking balls, running a really, really good offense. And I think Jan Zimmerman, the German setter, has been a really good one. And I think that win over Monza was really it was almost the passing of the torch from Gregor Grosjean to Linus Weber in terms of the next great German right side.
I talked about that several times on the broadcast about how everybody knows that Weber is the heir apparent to that German opposite position when Grosjean finally decides to retire permanently, because he keeps retiring and unretiring. But it was cool to see them go head to head, and Weber really brought it that day. I was impressed.
Yeah. Next thing that we have up on the docket here, Rob, you're gonna love this one. Stéphane Boyer injured. That's not why you love it, of course. Never want to see someone injured.
No.
He will be out for some time with JW. Of course, we talked about him a little bit earlier. And Rob's number one favorite player of all time, Jan Hadrava, is now stepping in. And I mean, hey, he stepped up. He had, 18 points to lead them today in Champions League. So what? He got another MVP this weekend for them. So Jan Hadrava, the Czech legend, getting it done. Rob's favorite player.
I don't want to hear it. I just don't see the value in Jan Hadrava as a player. He can kind of serve. He can't do anything else. I think he's pretty good at warming the bench. So we'll see if JW can survive while they have to play him, and see if Boyer can come back as soon as possible. Yikes. Moving on from that, the NCAA women's volleyball tournament field was announced, and the tournament gets kicked off pretty soon. 64 teams in that tournament. Really, every time I see that tournament field, I'm like, why can we not do this on the men's side? Why can't we even have 64 teams? God forbid.
Because there's not 64 teams.
I know
volleyball in the NCAA.
I know that, dude. It's a hopeless dream for me to have people be filling out NCAA men's volleyball brackets with 64 teams in them. It's like 50 years down the road at best. But there are 64 good women's teams going at it of the tournament. You already know my pick. I'm a crazy homer for Purdue volleyball, 6th overall. I think they're insane, and I think this might be the year they finally get to the Final Four. Everett, do you have any favorite right now?
Honestly, my watching of NCAA women's volleyball has been an all-time low this year. Yeah. My accumulated seconds watch is approximately 0. So I'm looking forward to kind of learning a whole bunch about the NCAA while watching the tournament. Hopefully the Halton guys are going to be doing another broadcast like the last year. One thing it is surprisingly difficult sometimes to watch the NCAA tournament anywhere but the States, because you guys
it's difficult to watch it in the States too, dude. Right? The NCAA is such a problem,
right? So it's just difficult, unless you have it on TV or you have that specific channel, if you want to watch the Big Ten Network, you have to have an address and stuff like that. So it's often pretty difficult for Canadians or anyone outside of the U.S. to watch the NCAA tournament, which is I think an issue, because if you ask me, NCAA volleyball and the NCAA tournament in general is the best product we have in volleyball. I love watching the tournament. The finals are always so much fun. The production level of the Final Four is truly the best production we have in volleyball. Sorry, Bounce House TV, but ESPN, kind of takes the cake in that one. Good commentary, good camera angles, great matches. I love watching the tournament. Stoked that it's about to start.
There's not much to disagree with about that. By the time you get to the Final Four, for sure, that you start to get some seriously good volleyball. The first 2 rounds, you almost never see anybody get upset, but Sweet 16, Elite 8, it starts to get pretty spicy, and that's when the production caliber increases. So if you're not in the U.S., hit us up in the Discord. Yeah, join the Discord, and we'll try and help as best as we can with ways to watch the NCAA women's volleyball tournament. Next, very interesting thing that happened in the SuperLega last week. If you happen to watch Piacenza versus Toronto for some reason, which I don't know why you would watch that, you might have noticed a unique commentary duo. The very familiar British voice of Clayton Lucas paired with the extremely far off and bad microphone quality voice of a certain Vital Heinen made his commentary debut last week. What do you think about this?
Oh, Heinen. I mean, I've been saying it for a long time. I think that Clayton Lucas, in terms of being a commentator, in terms of the technicality of being a commentator, is fantastic. However, his knowledge of volleyball in general is a little lacking, and he would always. It would always be good to have someone beside him. You know, maybe like a Clayton Lucas and a Mark Lebedeau, who we've seen do commentary many, many times. But I don't think this is what we were looking for. The technical issues that were there were just frightening.
It sounded so bad.
Like the fact that is even allowed just boggles my mind and hurts my brain. It just kind of shows where volleyball is in general. Like that wouldn't be allowed on like a high school broadcast. Okay, maybe not a high school, but like, you know, like even like the OUA up here, like a university broadcast, like they wouldn't allow that. They would have cut it, and it just kind of went. And yeah, like to me, Vital Heinen, he just like further like ingrains himself as like the Dr. Frankenstein of volleyball.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that. I was just about to say the mad scientist.
Yeah, absolutely. This crazy mad scientist who's just yelling about stuff like the bygone days when he was a good coach back at Bloomberg and Friedrichshafen and stuff like that. You know, so yeah, I think that was when it was 100% a swing and a miss by the FIVB. But hey, let's keep trying out something. Let's keep testing some things out.
They're testing out some stuff, and I can peel back the curtain on this because I've been commentating the SuperLega this season. So they're like everybody who's commentating those games is doing them remotely. Nobody's in the arena. Like I do mine sitting right here in this very chair on this very microphone, and like there's a match in Italy, and my voice is over it from like halfway across the world. So the issue with doing that with a co-commentator is the prospect of having to have chemistry with someone who you're not sitting next to, who's like
don't really know.
Right, you might not know them, and you also have to compensate for any audio latency that there is. Like the technical difficulties of co-casting with someone are significant because you really any time you're going to get a good, legitimate, like quality dual commentator cast, it's when they're sitting next to one another and there's really a chemistry of being there together that you can't replace. So that was an issue. Vital Heinen needs to invest in a microphone. He sounded terrible. That's an easy fix. But yeah, I like the fact that the FIVB and Clayton Lucas in particular is actually himself is coordinating who gets to commentate what matches. So the FIVB is learning about all the new ways that they can expand the commentary game. It's so far there's a lot of good changes happening. I would like for them to happen faster. Like I would like for the cream to rise to the top in that area as well as it does on the court, just to put it that way. But it was kind of goofy to hear Heinen on a broadcast. There were some funny moments in it despite some of the issues.
Yeah, definitely interesting. And always just a reminder, FIVB, if you're looking for another commentator who's experienced, already has some videos on your channel that you use me commentating for, yeah, I'm available. But yeah, moving on. Strange things coming out of the CVA over in China, where they have 2 days before the season started reduced their on-court foreigner limit from 2 to 1. So that means you've got a bunch of players kind of in limbo, right? Would you want to go to China? Like A, would you want to go to be a backup? B, does that affect your contract, right? Like if you're a Jordan Larson who's going over and you're only going to be playing half the time, if that, like, is that going to affect your contract? Are they going to be giving you as much? And how does this happen? And there's no kind of sanctions or anything coming from the FIVB.
Like, I don't understand this at all. Like,
imagine this happening in any other sport, like in the CFL, for example, the Canadian Football League. There's an on-field Canadian, like there's a Canadian cap, right? You need to have so many Canadian bodies. So it would be like, imagine if that just changed drastically, like days before the season. It's nuts.
It doesn't make any sense. 2 days before the season, the players are already there. The teams have already gone through their whole off season of trying to acquire players. And obviously the less foreigner slots there are, the more valuable those foreigners become. So if then you have 2 super high profile foreign players on your team, and then all of a sudden you're told you can only play one of them, that completely turns upside down the entire way you operate your team for the season. Jordan Larson, for example, for Shanghai is now is basically on the bench because their other foreigner is Kim Young-kyun, and she's like, how do you pick between which of those you're going to play? You built your entire team around the idea of playing both of them. Also, like Filippo Lanza is supposed to go to China. Luca Vittori is supposed to go to China. Like, I think they're going to on the same team. Like, they're not both going to be able to play anymore. Like, yeah, no other league. And I think that even if this was done in Europe, the FIVB would step in and like, all right, relax. Like, what are you doing? But because it's China, they seem to be able to do whatever they want. This is so weird. So weird. And I think it might, but the contract is a great point thing, Everett. Like, Larson might have to opt out of her contract and go somewhere else if she's not going to be able to play.
Like, I think this is going to lead. We're going to see this is going to lead to Filippo Lanza staying in Cisterna for the rest of the season.
I think it is too. I absolutely think it is too.
Which I think is really only a benefit to Cisterna. You know, I know that he's not the player that he once was, but he did look pretty good for them.
He passes the ball well. That always helps. Yeah, it's so weird. 2 days before the season, you completely restructured the entire way that your league's personnel systems work. Like that, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, none. It's the Chinese league has always been a little murky to me. Like they have such a shorter season. Like they start later, they end earlier.
They do have a short season.
You know what? You can never get any stats from it. Obviously, can't see it. The only video I've seen, I think they're all wearing like the same jerseys, and it's just like you're either wearing pink or you're wearing yellow and red. I don't know. Maybe I'm just making that up, but I would love to. Maybe one day when we got the big bucks, Rob, we can do a trip to China and go investigate what their volleyball is like, because I really have no idea. Let's open the Iron Curtain and check things out.
Just no clue. But that was a very weird piece of news that affects really everything about the way that leagues work. So if we get any transfer news out of it, we will let you know. Yeah. So this last piece of news is a bit of a sad thing that I want to talk about because it's a little bit personal to me. Dr. Don Shondell has passed away at the age of 92. That was last Tuesday night. So you might be familiar with the Shondell family because Don's sons, Dave and John, are the head coach and assistant coach, respectively, at Purdue, who I know personally very well. I went to Purdue. I spent 5 years in the gym with Dave and John. I got to meet Dr. Don several times. Their older brother, Steve, I got to know as well. One of the great volleyball families of all time. And if you are in the United States, if you are especially in the Midwestern United States, there's a chance that you would have never been introduced to the game of volleyball, especially if you're a man, if it weren't for Don Shondell. Don Shondell started the men's program at Ball State University. He fought hard against the athletic department, even at the time, to transition from a club program to a varsity program, which is, as we certainly know now, is an almost unwinnable battle. He really put men's volleyball on the map in the Midwest and helped its expansion throughout the United States outside of just California, where it was mostly born and thrived for the early part of the 20th century. If it weren't for Don Shondell, the game of volleyball, and especially the game of men's volleyball in the United States, would be a completely different thing. Anybody on the men's national team in the last 20 years who is from the Midwest might not have ever gotten even the chance to play volleyball in the first place. The game really owes so much to Dr. Don. Ball State named a gym after him, well-deserved. The Shondell family has seen a huge outpouring of support and great memories from Dr. Don's incredible life and career. So I wanted to make sure that I shouted him out on this show. Rest in peace to Don Shondell, and my support and my thoughts are with the Shondell family. I've already gotten to talk to several of them personally, but wanted to make sure that Don Shondell received the credit that he deserves on this show. Just a great volleyball life and all-time legend, Hall of Famer as well.
Yeah, rest in peace to an absolute legend. The second most winningest all-time head coach in men's volleyball in the NCAA, of course, only behind Al Skates. 769 wins, 280 losses, and 6 ties. I don't know. I don't know what this other number is here. I don't know how you can tie in volleyball, but I digress. Overall, a 732 win record, which is absolutely massive. And I mean, hey, even up in Canada, we know the legacy that is Ball State volleyball. It's one of those long time programs that have just kept things alive in the East Coast. And you know what? Especially with the resurgence that we've seen in the MIVA over the past 10 years, with Ohio State having so much, Ohio State, Lewis, Chicago, Loyola. I'm sure there's other teams in there that I'm missing out. You know what? So much good volleyball has been coming out of the MIVA conference, and Dr. Don Shondell has a lot to do with that. So really, thank you.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you and rest in peace. If like I'm in Chicago, and I strongly believe that the Illinois and the Chicago area is the second richest talent pool for high school men's volleyball in the
Absolutely.
nation. And California smokes it by a mile, but there are very, very good players on every NCAA team from the state of Illinois. And there's a good chance that wouldn't happen, especially in the state of Indiana, where Ball State is. Almost no way any of that is what it is now without Don Shondell. So wanted to recognize a legend there. Do we have anything else to go over this week?
I'm not sure. Although I'm curious now that you bring that up. I wonder what I'd love to do, like in comparison, like what is the best metro area for men's volleyball? Because it's either got to be like California, like let's go like LA, SoCal, LA,
yeah,
Chicago, or Toronto. Like it has to be one of those those three pockets.
I agree. It's hard to disagree with Toronto. Northern California is pretty good, but I think Chicago might have it. Milwaukee is pretty good, but it's not on the level of those other places. And then much further down the line, Long Island, Connecticut a little bit, St. Louis a little bit, Cincinnati a little bit. But I think Chicago and Toronto would be competing for second behind SoCal.
Speaking as like a Canadian player going down to American tournaments, specifically, we would always go down to the Penn State tournament. And realistically, the only teams that we were wary of, I guess, were Chicago teams like Ultimate Gold and stuff like that. And they were always monstrous. Of course,
Ultimate Sports Performance.
Yeah, Ultimate and Sports Performance were the two big teams. Of course, the year that I played, we went down to the Penn State tournament and lost to Rochester Pace. But that's when they had who's the 7-footer guy who went to play for UCLA?
Robert Page.
Robert Page. Yeah, Robert Page. I remember that. I still remember their middle blocker. It was a chippy game, and then we crushed them in the first set. And their middle blocker came down and bounced a ball, and he goes, "Take that, you effing F word." That you know what, you can't say it at all. And we kind of questioned when he only was given the yellow card, a little bit of hometown favoritism in the USA versus Canadian battle there. But yeah,
we've been in support of trash talking on this show. Certainly not to that extent.
We have been.
I played Canada Crush back in my club days, and they stomped all over my poor team. They were unbelievable. They came down to the Chicago qualifier. Yeah, there were a couple of those Canadian club teams every year that would come down to either Chicago or to SoCal, go ahead and win that tournament, not accept the bid, and go back to the Great White North.
I believe like you're 94.
Yeah, I'm 94.
Yeah, so that Crush team is arguably the greatest Canadian volleyball, like club volleyball team of all time. Like they were winning. They won national championships. They went down to, as you said, to the SoCal qualifier. They beat guys like Ben Patch and other monsters. Yep. Didn't accept the bid, and just dominated everything. And
trust me, I as a 6'3" and pretty bad middle back in that day had just did not belong on the same court as those particular Canada Crush guys.
Danny Demyanenko was on that team, now playing at Montpellier. A player by the name of Stephen Marr, you may know him. Was also on that team, and of course a bunch of other Canadian legends were on that Crush team. And those were fun. Those were fun days. Not so much for me. I was coaching opposite them, and also had to play against the older Crush team as well in my 18 years. So the Crush Volleyball Club out of Scarborough was hands down the best club in Canada for a few years.
Good times. Yeah, I'm certainly not in touch with that scene as much anymore, but a little reminiscence of the good old days at the end of the show here. So thanks for joining, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next. Yeah, I think we'll see you next Tuesday. Hop in the Volleyball Source Discord. The link is in the description here. If you want to talk more volleyball throughout the week, follow me on Instagram if you want at rstclair1. I'm sure you're already following Volleyball Source, because why wouldn't you be? We got the audio versions of the podcast now, at least coming on your platforms very soon if it's not already there. So that's about it.
We do have one question in the chat.
I also forgot about one more thing that we have.
Okay, well let's go to that real quick. It's the last day right now. It ends here at the end of November. So look at that sexy sticker. Go get your spicy 9x9 and spicy volleyball merch at that volleyball.store. use the code Spicy Friday for 25% off until December 4th. So of course, that's tomorrow. So if you're listening to this, it's already probably too late. Where's that going to go? Is that going to go on your laptop?
I can't. I have a new laptop on the way. I can't decide if it's going to go on that or on a water bottle. But the sticker is sweet, and I hope to get many more of them.
I think I'm going to find a different source for the sticker because I was talking to some people in Toronto, and I can just like bulk,
Yeah.
For all of the, like, I'm doing drop shipping for all of the clothes, and I don't have enough room to put boxes and boxes of clothes, but I do have room for a box of stickers, and right now they're a little too expensive. So I think you know what I want to do is buy a bunch of them and just go to different volleyball tournaments and put them everywhere.
Exactly. I'm going to do the same with some VLA stickers, especially this season. Yeah. How good is this logo? It's a spicy hot pepper on a volleyball. What else could you want? So if you want that on t-shirts, we got 9x9 merch. I've got some on the way. I'm excited to wear it on the show. Yeah. So use that promo code as fast as you can before it expires.
Real quick, Rob, did you attend the tryouts this weekend? Did you go try out for the Chicago Untouchables of the NVA?
I will not be addressing that subject because it is a waste of my time. There's your answer. We can hit that particular conversation as the season comes closer. That'll be fun.
Well, didn't you guys just announce your first VLA weekend?
Oh yeah, that's been on the calendar for a little while. We're starting to build the hype around it. Yeah, Martin Luther King weekend. I think it's the third weekend in January in Indiana. So I'll be there, and some good teams will be there too. I'm excited for it.
Sick. Well, I think that's the show today, guys. Make sure you check out the matches this week. Make sure you join the Volleyball Source Discord. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, the link should just be below you. And we'll be back next Tuesday for another episode of the 9x9.
See you, boys and girls. Thanks for watching.